what they do. You know, they didn't even know what those words meant, but I think there's something big under there with who they're accountable to. And I think we got to dig that up. And I've been trying, but it's buried deep. I haven't found it yet. When it is, I'll send you an email. When I find out what a bureau is, I'll send you an email. Anyway, these bureaus and all these things, these animals, we don't know what they are, these unidentified species of government, they consolidate all three functions of government into one. They create regulations that have the force of law. They have their own enforcers that come out and kick your door in to make sure you're doing it. So that's a legislative function to make the rules. It's an executive function to kick in your door. And then when you get dragged out of there with zip ties on your hand, you go before them. And you have a judicial function, and they review it themselves with an administrative hearing. That is the consolidation of all three of those powers. It's a loophole, it's a way to get around the checks and balances, and it's so entrenched, and it is so powerful in this government that we've got, that our congressmen and our senators are scared of it. And you know what it's doing to them? It's making their role of writing legislation almost purely ceremonial. They're kind of just a dog and pony show. And we've got to realize that there's this other creature of government that wasn't intended by the founders that's coming right into our life, you know. We've got to reckon with this. This is some hard, bad stuff, you know. Here she's like, oh, you'll be so happy when you hear this guy, Mona says, you know. And here I am talking about all this horrible stuff, you know. I see your face is dropping, you know. Kicked in the teeth, you know, he says a minute ago, and then he does it. So the other thing that you can do is you can appeal to this government based on the rule of law, okay? You can call them on the carpet. You can go before a court. You can make your case based on logic. You can make your case based on the Constitution and have it all ironed out and all perfect, and you're appealing to them on the merits of law, and they won't hear you. Here's the way it'll go. We just got out of Continental Congress. The main reason that we were there is because we're being denied redress of grievances. What'll happen is you'll have a really sound, bulletproof, constitutionally based case, and you'll start fighting this case, and you'll start getting up through the tiers, you know, up there, and you'll get up to the Ninth Circuit Court. You guys are in the Ninth Circuit Court. It's horrible, I know, because Alaska's in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals too. You'll get up there to that Ninth Circuit Court with your case, and you want to go all the way to the Supreme Court and have this settled. And they'll say, we're not going to hear your case. Well, why not? And they say, well, because you don't have standing. Oh. Well, why don't I have standing? Because we're not going to hear your case. And that's what they say. That's not an oversimplification. That's what they say. Next, please. And that's it. And you know why that is? You know why they operate that way? You know why you can have the whole Constitution and the 16th Amendment, and you can prove how you know, the income tax was never ratified and how it's unconstitutional and it was a temporary war measure. You can have all of these laws out here, you know, all right? And you can fight it based on all of these laws. And I know that there's some people in this room that have fought it based on those laws, you know, and you know what? There's way more people that haven't fought it based on those laws. And let me tell you why you didn't fight it based on those laws. Because our government does not operate under the rule of law. They operate under the rule of force. It's not the rule of law, it's the threat of force. That's what it is. You know how the Oxford English Dictionary defines terrorism? Government through intimidation. That is profound. Now, how many of you submit because you're intimidated? And how many of you submit because you really think the law requires you to do that, and that if there was a discrepancy, you could bring it to them and they would abide by the law? No, I submit because I'm scared, and I'm not too usually of a scaredy guy, you know? But that's what it is. We don't operate under the rule of law. We operate under the rule of force in this country, and that is pathetic and sad. And let me tell you what my most profound fear is. my deepest fear is that our government is not going to hear us until we speak to them in their language, which is force. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean violence. And don't get me wrong, I'm not against violence. I'm not against violence, okay? I'm not against spilling blood for freedom. I'm not against, I will kill for liberty. You know, everybody asks, would you die for liberty? That's not really the right question to ask. The right question to ask is, would you kill for liberty? Because if you would kill for liberty, it assumes that you would die for liberty. All right? Now, about this speaking to them in their language, force doesn't necessarily have to be violence. It can be just pushing them into submission to the law through nonviolent means. It can be hassling them into such a rock and a hard spot that they just got to do something. But we might not even have to do that, given what I'm going to, keep talking about here. Now, the other thing, I keep saying second thing, like 20 second things. I couldn't count the other night, They were like, and the third thing, and the fifth, and everybody correcting me on the counting is like, you're missing the point. I didn't come here to count. I came here to give a big idea. It can be packaged up in any numbers you want. And so anyway, forgive me on that. Here's an idea that, you feel a little bit like you're going out on a limb to say this, or at least I do anyway. But you know what? I really believe it's true. And while I feel like I'm the first one to run out onto the, field of battle with, storm hell with a water pistol to say this, I think that you'll know that it's true in your heart. I don't think that we can beat them at the polls. Now, that might sound very defeatist, but let me tell you why. Because you can't overcome votes that are bought and paid for with money that was stolen from you. And they know that. And they know that all they have to do is steal enough money from a broad enough base and give it to just a big enough base to secure their reelection. They've figured it out. They've refined it over the years. And you know what they do? They just keep sending us back into that fruitless eddy of vote them out. If you're mad, vote them out, And then they go behind their closed doors, they snicker, and they go, they'll never be able to overcome all the people that are dependent on the money we rob and give to them. And as long as we keep them just focusing on this one single recourse of if you don't like it, vote them out, they'll go in circles for forever, and we can keep this gig going for years. That's what they say. In fact, I've been there for some of those, And it's just, and then you're like, hey, guys, this isn't right. And they're like, look, buddy, you're out of the club, That's the way it goes. So that's why you feel this way. That sinking feeling in your gut that you felt, you've all felt that, right? I've felt that. The sinking feeling in your gut is the expected feeling when somebody says, go do this thing. And you've never put, that's impossible, this impossible task. It's like, oh, there's a freight train coming. Let's all dive in front of it. Maybe we can stop it. That's kind of, it's like, oh, I know it's not going to work. But what else do we have? And so it's like, throw your life into changing this freight train of government. Maybe you'll stop it. Your heart sinks at that. Because at a deep, deep level, you know what I just said. Even if you never put it into words, even if you never heard a speaker lay it out into words, you knew it was there. You sensed it, you smelt it, you knew what it was. So that's where we are. Now, that leaves us in kind of a bad situation. Let me get some water here. That leaves us in kind of a difficult situation. But you know what? What's a hero without a difficult situation? I'm going to talk about heroes for a second here. Hope that was mine. All right, it is now.